Hey everybody, welcome into Tree of Life Oracles. This morning, I am getting called to do a reading on fear. And I don't know about many of you, but I know with myself, even though the readings about the Lionsgate portal were really talking about transformation, I actually have been experiencing a lot of very heavy and emotionally draining energies since that portal on the 8th. And I don't know if that's true for everybody else, but through the process of just sitting here, and really sitting in that energy, and it's just, it was really bringing up a lot of stuff that didn't feel very good. At the same time, it's stuff that we really have to transmute if we're going to change ourselves for the better, and we're going to change this world so that we have less negative, or I don't want to say negative because that implies being hissy-pissy, and that's not what I mean. If we want to elevate the vibrational frequency in this earth so that we can bring in happy, beautiful, wonderfully resilient and cooperative and collaborative, positive future, then we've got to get out of fear-based energy. And sometimes, to be honest, it's just really hard to do. Because you know in your head that you shouldn't be afraid, that you should trust and go with what the divine shows you. And then at the same time, you're faced with things crashing around you and you feel like you're just imprisoned with no way out. And so I totally understand what it feels like to be in that position, and cognitively, mentally knowing that I need to trust and that I need to have positive energy, but my circumstances around me, the physical world around me being so adversarial and so complicated, and just things going awry that you can't predict and stuff like that, it just makes it impossible to find your way out. And I've managed to find my way out because I was watching another reading in desperation, and I got intrigued enough in the reading to sort of relax, and then it popped into my head how to solve the problem by watching her reading, not so much in what she said, but by the cards that she laid down. And then I realized I could make decisions based off that, and it was very helpful. So I am being called to do this as well, and hopefully that'll help anybody who needs to see this. Okay, anybody that needs to hear this. So let's talk a little bit about this fear. We're going to look at we're going to pull some chakra cards, the chakra wisdom cards. And let's just get some energies based on that. And then we're going to go through, that'll be like why there's fear. And then we're going to talk about what we need to do what are some options to go through to alleviate fear. I'm not going to tell you the one thing you need to do because I think it's different for all of us, to be honest. But different options on what you need to do or what you can do, not what you need to do. Pardon my English. What you can do to really maybe change your focus a little bit so that you can start to find your way out of the weeds, and we'll throw some tarot down as well. So I just want to start out with some chakra wisdom. All right, spirits, angels, spirits, star beings, beings of light, show us the emotions or what's going on in the chakras that creates fear and imbalance and being stuck. All right, we've got facade. I had the camera honed in a little bit closer this morning, so hopefully you can see these better. All right, facade. What else? Renewal. One more. bittersweet. Okay. Let's see if we can see those. I just want to make sure that they're clear. I think I'm actually going to spread them out a little bit just because it'll allow me to put other things in there. Okay. So what I'm getting immediately with this is that, you know, in the modern era, especially in the era of social media and advertising and a lot of kinds of things, there's always been a push, and I don't know how true this is in other countries, but I know in America it's a real issue in terms of being pushed to portray this life on the outside. And we do that, you know, we see it in social media all the time. It's all these folks who are sharing things, and then it becomes very viral and people pick up on it, and then the next thing you know is that the message is morphing into something that's more factual than it really is. It's something that started out as an opinion or someone's personal idea or choice, then it starts to become, it morphs into something that everybody begins to think is factual or reality or other things. And you know, it's like when you're a kid playing, some of you may not be old enough to have ever done this, but playing the game, you know, the game telephone, or just sit in a circle and the first person would whisper in the next person's ear, and then that person would turn to the next person and whisper the same thing. And by the time you got around to the end of the circle, when you got to the end of the circle, the first person would say, this is what it, or the last person would say, this is what I heard. And the first person would say, well, this is actually what I said. And they were usually very, very different, right? Because with every additional filter added to the message, it starts to morph into something that is less than the original, or something that is different than the original, because humans put their own filters on things, and we tend to put our own viewpoints and our own biases and our own slants. And I don't want to be political, because I don't think that's what this is, but that's part of the problem that's going on right now in the United States in terms of all the political squabbling and all this kind of stuff, is that people are expressing their needs, and then somebody says immediately gets filtered or embellished or something like that. And then the next thing you know, by when the end recipient gets the message, it's completely warped from what originally happened. And so then people start banking their choices and their lives and their beliefs on stuff that's not really even true. It's actually very different from what was originally talked about or said. And that's true in social things. It's true with what we listen. And because of that, we end up living in this world where we're trying to be authentic as people, but there's so many falsities, false fronts, and you know, it's all. And then there's also the other aspect of this facade card of trying to cover up what you really feel on the inside by being happy on the outside. I mean, there's no wonder that this is a yellow card for the solar plexus, because you know the solar plexus is about your confidence and what you project and your action and all that kind of stuff. And facade is like I'm projecting, you know, I'm projecting that I'm moving forward and that I'm taking action, I'm doing all these things, when in fact on the inside I'm just a mess and I'm confused and I don't really know what to do. So there's multiple layers of facade, and different people are impacted by different ones of them. So whether it's that, you know, you're getting down and out because of what you hear and see on social media or on the news or in your community or whatever else, or if it's you just trying to project a happier image or a happier state of being than what you really feel on the inside, because you don't, and I'm not saying that you're doing it because you're being a fake. No, you're doing it because you don't really believe anybody's going to understand it. That nobody's really going to understand just how you feel. And because I felt the same way. It was difficult to even talk to my best friend about anything because I didn't think she'd really understand it. And I don't know why we get that way. I'm not sure where that comes from. I think we just get so entangled in the problem and not having a solution, especially if you're a problem solver, and I tend to be that. I mean, that's one of the things I'm really known for and the rest of my life, right? And not being able to solve a problem, you start to doubt yourself and what you're capable of. So facade is a big thing. You know, what are you really, what are you living on the inside? And what are you taking in to the inside that's not really on, that's being shown differently on the outside? So it's information that you might be receiving that's you're putting your trust in, that's actually a facade. It's not as real as you think it is. And that impacts your choices or your beliefs. Or you keep projecting that you're happy and you're stable and that you're taking action, when in fact on the inside you feel like a jumbled mess. So that's two different messages coming through for two very distinctive different problems. And then we have renewal. Renewal is, this is the sacral chakra. This is about creativity. You want to renew, you want to be new, you want the sun to shine. But I think for a lot of people right at this moment, it's not happening. You don't see it happening. You've done good things. You've tried to live your life as a good person, and you want a renewal, but it's just short in coming, right? And then the bittersweet card sort of expresses that, the past. And then that's throat chakra right there, tending to talk about the past, what you remember in the past. And I do it too. And my spirit team gets on my butt about it all the time, because when you keep focusing on the past, you're not focusing on the present. And even though you're remembering, but what it comes back to is these three things working together. It's just that, we relive the past sometimes because we've already assessed it, and because we can see it. They always say hindsight is 20/20. You see what you would do differently. And in the present, we tend to miss things. And I think that's why a lot of people either focus on what they want in the future or what's happened in the past, and they don't focus on the present, because it's really difficult to feel like you're grounded and aware in the present, because life typically in the modern era just moves us so fast. We're just going from thing to thing to thing. I have this to do, I have that to do, and then I have this. It's a schedule that's just jam-packed. And you don't have time to really look at the present and say, hey, what do I feel right in this moment? What do I see right in this moment? What do I hear right in this moment? What do I understand right in this moment? Let's get some clarity on some of this. These are the Lilac Latern intuition cards. Let's just say, Spirit, give us some clarity on some of these things. There's the social media card, right? Or I interpret that one as social media for sure. You're being squawked at constantly. Doesn't mean social media is bad. Obviously, I'm using social media as a platform right at this moment, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means we have to be aware of what we see, what we hear, and then what we speak, right? What else, Spirit? The clock, that's like divine timing, or it's like the Wheel of Fortune to me. It's divine timing or being timely. Renewal is timely. I think that maybe that's a positive message from Spirit saying, hey, look, renewal comes. It's divinely timed for everybody, right? And it's not because you don't deserve to have it when you want it. It's because it's divinely timed to be at the very right moment that's best for you for the best outcome. That's another thing is we always want to rush. We try to rush through things to fix it, to change it, to make it happen like yesterday. And they're telling us that you have to take your time to go through the renewal process. You have to do the work. They also just gave me the lightning bolt. I view this as divine intervention. And what they're saying with this is that sometimes divine intervention is bittersweet. It's good and it feels good and it feels bad. And I want to talk about that very specifically because my primary guide is very rough on me at times. And sometimes in the moment, his energy and his insistence with things, the way he insists, the way he communicates, and the way he interacts with me is very frustrating. And sometimes it's to the point of demoralizing. But ultimately, it's meant to create this renewal and help. So if you feel like your spirit team is giving you mixed messages, or that you just don't understand why you're trying to do all the right stuff and that good things are not just immediately happening, it comes down to it's divinely timed and that divine intervention is sometimes bittersweet. And I don't purport to understand how all the lessons, I do know I learned a ton of lessons through him and through, his wisdom and his guidance, but most of them have been extraordinarily unpleasant. And it's not just, yes, it's shadow work, and shadow work isn't meant to be pleasant. It's meant to teach you something. But I consider myself an amenable person. Give me feedback and I will make adjustment. He doesn't work that way. He works in the, let me beat you down to a bloody pulp and make it raw so that you have to crawl out of it in order to be rebirthed. And I'm not saying that everybody's guides are that way. That's just the way mine works. But it feels terrible at the time, but it does get better. And, after the tears and the insanity and the, all of those other horrible thoughts you have, you can crawl out of it and feel like you finally saw something differently. Now, maybe your guides don't work to that kind of extreme. But for those of you who do, and maybe that's who this message is for those of you where your guidance, your spiritual guidance tends to be a little more extreme, it's an understanding that it's still divine intervention. Don't forget, it's still divine intervention, and it's still divinely timed, and it's there to help you. I want to pull some cards now from the Through the Eyes of the Soul Oracle. Let's just look at some things that can be more helpful, where we can maybe have a different focal point. And I'm sorry if this reading feels like it's all over the place. I'm just channeling the information the way they give it to me, and they felt like this is something that needed to be said today. And whether it's just that I needed to say it today or you need to hear it today, I don't know. It could be both. But just keeping it real, doing what I'm instructed to do. So the first thing we have is weave your destiny. That's really a pretty card. All right, I'm going to actually cover that up. Let's look at the positive stuff. Weave your destiny. What else? and take action. So now they're saying that it is time to take action. You know, that aspect of divine timing is here. And that brings up another thing. I think people are used to hearing divine timing as it relates to more romantic or twin flame kinds of things. Divine timing is in everything. I'm not knocking the twin flame stuff and all that kind of that jazz. But that term divine timing means anything that's divinely timed, which means anything that is on your destined path, your destiny, your fate. Divine timing happens along that path, and it happens at different times for different reasons. It isn't just about one thing. It's about many things. So any lesson that you master, anything that you are meant to do, any event or action or lesson that you master that's meant to propel you through the next step of your journey is divinely timed. And so right now, weave your destiny. You know, weaving is intricate. It's not a simple thing. It's little bits and pieces, you know, it's threads, and it's you don't see what the full picture is until you've really woven a lot of threads, right? So understand that all of these little things that you're doing, these lessons that you go through, the shadow work that you do, the taking a leap of faith that you do, the trying something new, you know, listening to your, if you want to call it your gut, or you want to call it your guides, or you want to call it your instincts, or your intuition, it doesn't really matter. All of those actions you take, all of those things that you do, move you forward, and they start to weave the bigger picture that's your destiny. And whether it's your destiny in this lifetime or your destiny in all of your cosmic lifetimes together. Could be either, could be both. This taking action card, I love the clouds on this because this person is really walking out of a storm, moving forward, right? Moving forward, but with wisdom. They've just come from the standing stones. And you see the bird there, the raven in the distance. Ravens are very, very, very knowledgeable about the cosmos, right? So when you take action and move forward, when you just put one step in front of the other, take a breath, it starts to pull you closer to where you're going. And every step, oh, that's so funny. Every step you take, I'll be watching you. That's what the spirit teams are saying. And they are watching over us. And they do allow us to go through hell sometimes because it's a lesson that we agreed that we need to learn when we incarnated here. A lot of the things that we go through, we chose to do before we incarnated. And I'm not saying that to excuse the crappy stuff that you go through. Believe me, I'm not. Sometimes I sit back on myself and I'm like, why in the hell did I ever agree to do this? Like, what was I thinking? But our higher selves, our spirit selves, our light body selves, they're looking at the bigger picture from a much higher plane. They have a higher view than we do here. And you just have to remember that you are a light body living in existence in a muscle suit. And sometimes we tend to get really caught up on what the muscle suit is going through and forget that what the light body really put us here for, or chose to be here for. All right, I've got some cards coming out. I've got the number 10 card. This is John Holland's Psychic Tarot of the Heart. So while it's based on tarot stuff, it's also a bit of an oracle deck as well. This card is for flow, but this is really the Wheel of Fortune card, right? And it's about flow. You got to go with the flow. And I know that's easier said than done. Some of us don't know the first thing. We're type A's and we stay stressed out all the time, and we have no clue what it means to go with the flow. But they're saying that you got to find a way to go with the flow. And even if that means just not reacting to things, if something takes you by surprise, not reacting, or if it means when you have to change your plans unexpectedly, just sitting with it and just going, instead of going, getting all worked up, I gotta change my plan, because we kind of attach to the outcome of where we're going. It's easy to do when you're human, because we're just looking for our goals to be met, We're just looking to pass our milestones. But when somebody comes back and says, oh, we got to cancel this, or we have to do that, it's about sitting with it and going, just taking a breath and going, okay, what shall I do now? And then just moving forward. Spirit, what else? We have the number 3 card. This is this is 3 of Pentacles. This is open up, even though it looks more like it should be 3 of Wands. In this particular deck, oh, I'm sorry, that's 4. Boy, I can't even read. It's, let me just double check. Hold on just a second. Where's the red border? Yeah, these are Pentacles. Okay, so 4 of Pentacles. And 4 of Pentacles, 4s are really about stability. But sometimes we think we're being stable when we clamp down on things, when we control it, when we hold on to it. Usually on the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the 4 of Pentacles, you see the dude that's just clutching his 4 coins to his chest, or his 4 pentacles to his chest. Sometimes that card is jokingly referred to as the greedy bastard card, because he just won't let go of it. He's holding on to everything. This is advising us to really do the opposite and think about the fact that being stable and feeling secure isn't about holding on tightly. It is about opening up and letting go a little bit. The stability comes from the harmonic balance in your energy fields, not from rigidity. So we're really being asked to look at it in a little different way. To, when you want to clamp down on something, to hold on to it so it doesn't go away, take a breather and just let go and allow it to flow, right? Allow the situation to flow. And I'm not going to lie to you. It is so much harder to do this. It is way easier said than done. There is no lie about that. It is way easier said than done. But you get better at it. The more you try it, the more you do it or attempt to do it, the better at it you get. And then you do learn how to do it more successfully. But you'll never know until you let go and try. And yeah, the first time you do it, emotionally it's going to suck. Because you're just going to feel all vulnerable and exposed. But you know something? It won't be the end of the world. And in fact, it'll make it easier. It'll also cut your stress, that internal stress you tend to build up, and allow you to allow you to sort of move and flow in a different way to something better. You know, fours, they are stable, but there's a good side. There's a reason if you look at the fours in tarot, you know, Four of Wands, that's considered a happy card of celebration because it shows the couple under the huppah and they're either celebrating or perhaps getting married or whatever. And that shows that's because Wands is about energy, right? And so when you have stable energy, that means everything's in balance and harmony. It's very, you feel very secure because that energy's flowing beautifully. It's interwoven, you know, that's the 1111 card, right? Or that's what everybody calls it. But then when you look at the Four of Cups, again, fours are stable, but everybody looks at the Four of Cups and goes, oh, but this is about sadness and despair. Well, they're both fours. But why is it that in Wands, that energy is considered to be stable, secure, and happy, but in Cups, it's considered to be sad and demoralizing and lonely, right? Fours are stable. The energy's stable. It has to do with what you do with it. So the assumption in the tarot is that if your energy is stable, like Wands, that's a good thing. But if your emotions are too stable, too rigid, then we tend to lock ourselves in. Again, that's an interpretation because we often get so fixated on one emotion that we don't see the other things around us. Four of Pentacles, if we get, you know, if we have stability with pentacles or coins, we get controlling if it's too much. But if it's mental, if we're looking for mental stability, well, that's the Four Swords. That one's often considered rest and healing. When we have stable mind, the mind heals. So it's looking at and remembering that even though in the tarot, there's a 4 number in every suit. In one case, we interpret it as a very happy, wonderful situation and kind of stability. And in one, you know, there's a couple of them that are sort of meh kinds of stability. And then one of them is like, ooh, yucky kind of stability. But they're all stability. It just has to do with what you do with that. Are you holding on too tight? Are you allowing it to flow in its natural state? Something to think about. This is a good point where journaling comes in, or at least writing down your thoughts. And if you don't like to write, you can record your own voice and talk to yourself, like a voice journal, and then go back and listen to it and help yourself help yourself get to the root of whatever might be your difficulty, you know. So just keep in mind, interpretation is everything, and it's stability is good until it's not. Then it's cloying and rigid, right? And then the major arcana, by the way, the 4 is the Emperor. And, you know, he's stable, but he's also controlling, right? So it's just something to think about perspective-wise. All right, we've also got, this is what would normally be the 7 of Swords, seeking the truth. And typically in the 7 of Swords, it's usually shown by, like, interpreted as deception or, you know, the sneaky guy or strategy or whatever. And in this case, in this particular card, it's really about looking through both sides to see where they intersect. Is there a positive message in this or a positive understanding? Is there a negative understanding? And where do those intersect? Where's the truth? I have another deck of Archangel sigils, and one of those says that. It says truth, and it says the truth, you know, the truth lies somewhere between, or between your truth and their truth, the truth actually lies, you know, the real truth is between. And it's important to understand that. Sometimes, you know, I get onto my primary guide for being deceptive all the time. Because sometimes he just says BS. Sometimes he lies through his teeth. I hate lying. I can't stand it. I'm big on integrity, and I can't stand people that lie to me. I can't stand people that play games with me. It drives me crazy. Because I don't think it's honest. I think it's dishonest, right? But that method, he uses that method to try to teach me things that maybe I don't always want to hear, or I don't really see. And sometimes it's not that I don't want to see them or hear them. I really truly don't see it, right? And I think this is his way. He's sharing this card of saying, look for the truth, even when you feel betrayed and deceived. You know, look back at the big picture and find out the real point of that is, what can you learn from this? And how does it change the way you think and feel and move forward? Even when something negative happens, when something crappy happens. And I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to tell you to be a Pollyanna and gloss it over. If something crappy happens, definitely own it. I own mine, because it just, you know, it's okay to feel betrayed, and it's okay to feel demoralized, and it's okay to feel angry and sad and all of those feelings. You have to get those feelings out. But once you do, then maybe take a step back when you can breathe and try to understand what good could potentially come out of that, what you might have learned from that, or how did that change the circumstances to push you in a direction you probably wouldn't have gone, but that's turning out to be a better way. Sometimes, you know, it's they use the angels and the guides and the helper spirits out there. They do things like that a lot of the time. It just really sucks when you don't function that way, right? And for some of you, you're gonna do this better than others of us. I'm a fire sign, and all that implies, right? It's harder for me. You air signs may do a much better time at this, because you think. It's all about mentation. You don't tend to have nasty emotions that get in the way. But for the fire signs and the water signs, and even for the earth signs, because earth signs tend to, you know, when they get freaked out, they tend to move into this control, this rigidity, right? The air signs will overthink it, put themselves in mental anguish from overthinking it. The fire signs just get righteous indignation because they're impassioned about the fact that somebody tread on their path there. And the water signs just get sad, bereft, and mopey, you know? I mean, we all have it. You have those for a reason. And that's one of the things I do tell my guide. Is that, you know, he thinks emotions are useless. He thinks they're a bother. But let me tell you something. For some of us, the emotion, that's where our superpower comes in. Don't be ashamed of your emotions, because it allows you to empathize with others. It allows you to hold compassion. It allows you to connect in a different way. We really need a balance between all of the elements within us. And that's where your birth chart comes in, you know, for you to really look at. All right, he's telling me there's a couple more cards that he wants to share. Okay, what do you got? What do you got? Manifest. So this is the Magician. Okay. Now, for some of us, see if you can see. Yeah, okay. Sorry, that ring light gives a... Let me turn the light a little bit and see if I can get rid of the glare. Maybe not. All right, that makes it a little darker. I'm sorry, but hopefully there's not a ton of glare there. manifesting. It comes from thinking. If you see on this card, this is actually a really interesting one for the Magician, because you've got all this blue energy. You know, his blue energy comes, and then it becomes this beautiful red energy. So it's taking your thoughts. The blue is the thoughts of air, right? Taking your thoughts and adding passion to that to create what you really, really, really want. And if you get into the habit, like a lot of us do, and I'm not excluding myself from this, if you get into a habit where you tend to get into these negative thought forms sometimes when the going gets rough, and then you move into a negative thought form, this is where it gets us in trouble. So if you constantly think in a negative way, or look at the negative spin on everything, then you do have potential to manifest not so great things. You have the potential to draw to you more of what you don't want. Because that's the thought form you're putting out there, the energetic form. We have to start thinking about how we do, we have to start thinking about our energies in terms of, or thoughts in terms of energy, and not just, sorry, I'm not doing a good job explaining this morning. We have to look at our thoughts in terms of energy and not just something we do. I don't know if that makes sense. And I think as humans in general, we tend to just look at things as they are. A thought is a thought, a feeling is a feeling. We have to start understanding that it's really all about energy. And if we understand that with energy, if we realize that, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where the glare is not. If we realize that all of that stuff, thought forms and feelings and emotion, all of that stuff is energy. If you think about it that way, then like attracts like. So if you constantly have a running narrative in your head that's more negative Nelly, or you always see, anytime something happens, you immediately default to what you can't have, or what you didn't get, or it's negative, or things like that. And I do it too. I am not chastising anybody for this, okay? If you immediately go that route, then that's what you're telling the universe, the energetic fields in the universe, that's what you're focusing on. One of the things I recommend to some of my, to my clients and patients that I'm working with out in the world and in aspects of my other part of my professional life, is that if you constantly have a go-to behavior in terms of like thought form, if if something goes wrong, like you were really looking forward to something and then it gets canceled, and you immediately go, I can't have anything I want. Why can't I have anything I want? Immediately, if there's a go-to for that, or it's never going to happen, nothing good ever happens to me, take those thought forms. If you hear yourself saying this stuff over and over again, it's going to require a little bit of analysis on your part to hear what you're really saying. Not only in your head, but what comes out of your mouth too, right? Write those down and then reframe them. So if you find that you're the person who constantly, when something goes bad or goes worse than you thought it was going to, and you say nothing good ever happens, write that down and then reframe it. Because if you can think of one instance when something good happened, that statement is false. So then write it down. Good things can happen for me. I believe that good things happen for me. I believe that this change in direction will bring me good things. And just get in a habit of reframing what you see. Because if one door closes, the wind from that door closing opens another door. And it may not be a door, it may not be the way you thought what you wanted or thought the way it was supposed to go, but your ultimate plan's in place. And it may turn out differently than you thought, but it'll always be better than you thought. It'll always be better than you thought. Let's see. One more. Seven, awaiting results. So this is Seven of Pentacles. So this is waiting on the harvest to come, to be ready, right? But the downside of this card is also anticipation. And if you get caught up in the outcome that you want or the way you think it's going to happen, and the energy doesn't want to flow that way, then what you do is you cut yourself off and you don't get any results, or you don't get, the results you get are not going to be to your liking. This is where this going with the flow comes in. Allow the universe to play it out for you. I know. Easier said than done. The only way we're going to change how we feel on the inside and ultimately how our world functions is by changing, reframing that negative thinking, and by going with the flow and not trying to force things to happen the way we think they should. If you can let go and let the universe, it does require a tremendous amount of trust. A tremendous amount of trust. And maybe you're not a trusting soul. Because if you've been betrayed a lot in your lifetime, it's hard to trust, right? I get it. Very much, I get it. But I think the message this morning is that you don't have to pretend that everything's rosy when it's not. But understand that the master plan that you set in place with your higher self before you ever incarnated here is going to play out for your highest good, because that's the way you set it. Nobody incarnates to say, oh, I want to learn these lessons and I want to really crash and burn at the end. That doesn't really happen. And I know that gets into a bunch of arguments about what happens when people's lives are terminated sooner than we think we should be and things like that. The reality is that that's a path that they knew they were on, okay? We're not going to debate that. We don't want to worry about it. This is about us, okay? There are a lot of things in the mysteries that are difficult for us to understand when we are incarnated in this muscle suit. And a lot of our ability to understand some of this stuff is clouded by programming that we've been given our whole lives, and by biases and judgments and perceptions of things that are based on a limited set of aspects of reality, when in fact, you know, we're really, as a light being, we're living in all dimensions all the time. We have multiple lives going on at one time because we're multifaceted beings. That's a hard thing to understand when you're got your feet solidly planted on planet Earth, right? So, ultimate message. I'm not trying to get off on a tangent of esoteric things today or philosophical discussions today. The message is that you've got to go with the flow. Letting go and not trying to constantly control everything. Not trying to just accept that when there's something that feels like a bump in the road happens, it's meant to bounce you. That bump is meant to bounce you in a slightly different direction because you need to go in a slightly different direction. And timelines change. It could be as positive as you moving into a different timeline that's fantastic and beautiful and wonderful. It could be that you're just making a tiny course adjustment and ending up doing a different option because other circumstances that influence your life path have changed. So it's not a bad thing. It's not A to Z. And if you're trying to make it go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on, that's the control. And you've got to let it go because sometimes it wants to go A to F, F to J. It might go back to B, but then it moves down to X, and the next thing you know, you're at Z. So you've got to allow it to move, your path to move in a gentle and fluid way. Get back to yourself. Realize that you're heavily influenced by what you see and hear, what you've been told. Sit with yourself in meditation or in thought and ask yourself what you really believe. Write it down. Talk it out with your spirit team. What do you really believe? And how much of your beliefs are different than what you were told you should believe, or that you should do, or that you should think, or that you ought to do, right? Start comparing those things. What you're probably going to find is that you have a much broader perspective and a much larger ability to look at the big picture than you ever realized. And once you see it in the big picture, in general, and quit just hanging on to every little detail that feels weird or doesn't feel congruent like it goes with the thing before, it makes it easier to go with the flow. All right, let's get some helpful messages to. All right, we got time to go. Get moving. Take your action. Time to leave the past behind. Time to leave your past. And that's not just the past chronology, your past life behind. It's about leaving past thought patterns behind, past behaviors behind, past actions behind. What else do we have? Anything else? We have soulmates. I think that just remembers that for a lot of us, this is a time of soulmates. And whether that's one person or a group of people, a soul family, a soul team, these folks are starting to come in to your picture, to your life. It's really important that you stay in that going with the flow and positive mindset to allow others who are meant to journey on your path with you to come in. And if you're worried about a soulmate, go with the flow and let it happen. Don't control it. I'm going to read you something this is a manifestation practice. This is beautiful. Right here, this is about boundaries. It says, I can break unhealthy cycles and thrive in change. The message on the back of the card, it says, unhealthy patterns create vicious cycles in our lives. Close your eyes and spend some time meditating on a difficult cycle you've had trouble breaking. It could be self-judgment, self-sabotage, or a challenging relationship you continue to return to. When you open your eyes, speak the words on the front of this card, commit and change today. I can break unhealthy cycles and thrive in change. Let's see if there's one more. It's too many. We have this one that says, I will pay attention to my inner wisdom, self-trust. This says, your inner wisdom is a powerful guide on the path to change. Close your eyes and spend some time thinking about how listening to your intuition has paid off in the past, or when ignoring it has caused problems. What does your intuition feel like in your body? What does it feel like when you disregard it? Take note of those feelings so that you know when they arise, and let your inner wisdom guide you to the future. I will pay attention to my inner wisdom. All right, my beautiful friends, sorry for the disjointed, crazy, wackadoodle message coming through. I don't always get to control what I'm supposed to say. I'm practicing my going with the flow too. So I apologize if it came across as a crazy, chaotic message, and I hope you found some things in this today that will help you thrive and help you embrace the life that you were always meant to have and the existence you were always meant to have. Have a beautiful and blessed and glorious week moving forward. We're still in the best part of our lives. Take those beautiful energies from that Lionsgate portal that just closed out and move things forward in a way that allows you to thrive and be whole. I wish you peace and blessings, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when there's another video. Thanks so much, guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.